Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome into this edition of The Rundown presented by Michigan ADAS. Cheeseburg here, Optimus Prime there. We hope you're having a great Halloween as this is released on Thursday. And it's a great time of year, JT, because not only do we have Halloween here today, we also got football coming up on Friday. It's just a great time of year.
Just back-to-back holidays. It's great. Right. We got Halloween. You can express yourself. You can be any Transformer you want to be. And then turn around Friday, we get the first round of the playoffs. You just got to love it.
Absolutely. We'll get into last week, week 9. We'll break that down as well as we'll preview week 10. We already did a bracket breakdown, so you can check that out on YouTube, Big Rapids Daily News. On our recent episode, we dropped earlier this week, so you can see all the teams, where they stack up in the bracket, as well as follow your team's path to the postseason and even Ford Field. And we had that whole broken down, a really good episode, so people should check it out because, JT, we broke down our spreadsheets. We broke down every nerdy thing that we bring on these shows for all of our great nerdy fans to enjoy.
Yeah, it was a short episode, just shy of 40 minutes. So that's probably that has to be the only untruth we told on that episode, though.
That is true.
This is going to be a short episode, and then we both nerded out. But yeah, a lot of information for everyone curious about all the teams in the area that have gotten into the playoffs. We broke down where every single team is, who they got to face, and what their path forward would be.
Absolutely. So you can watch that as well when you are done watching this episode. So we'll get right into it here. Obviously, big wins for both of our teams. We'll start with Reed City. Really was a gritty defensive slugfest down there in Mount Pleasant. Reed City was backed up against the wall from the opening drive. Beale City was able to score on the opening drive. They took possession, and they were able to really throw a lot of counterpunches to Reed City's offense. But the second half, the fourth quarter, 12 unanswered to win it. Really gutsy effort from Coach Schenkel's team. Big effort on the ground from Kason Kopic as well as Andrew Kianis. Big defensive games as well. Peyton Gogolowski, multiple sacks, as well as you saw Wyatt Spalo get a sack, couple TFLs, and a really good pass defense from Coach Daling down the stretch to limit Beale City. But, I mean, that game, anybody that listened to our episodes here knew we hyped up this game for a reason, and it looks like we got some credit to our name for how just a fantastic cinematic performance that football game was to any viewer, no matter who you're rooting for.
Yeah, the Aggies they're an impressive team, right? They're that school we talked about on the previous episode. We've talked about it throughout the year, even whenever we highlight Beale City. Back-to-back state champs in baseball. They always make a deep run. We all knew that was going to be a true Friday Night Lights for us. And they didn't disappoint, right? They didn't disappoint. But that's a really gutty win. That's a big-time win for Reed City to get going into the postseason. A little less, satisfying, I would say, for Big Rapids. They're shutting the lights off on us here. But for Big Rapids, going over to Alma and just laying it down, almost setting a school record, I'm sure, unconfirmed in the first half. Not really the best game to prepare yourself for the competition of postseason for Big Rapids at Alma. A little bit better of a game for just feeling really good about yourself, I suppose. But, hey, here we are. Now Big Rapids is in the catbird seat as the 1 seed. The reason we're back here at Cardinal Stadium again, in fact, is because Big Rapids is hosting the first playoff game in the history of Cardinal Stadium Friday night, tomorrow night, against the Ludington Orioles. Just a little bit on Ludington, 7-2 on the year. They had a couple pretty big wins for themselves, a record-setting offense. However, they lost a couple crucial games. The most recent notable, they just got lit up by Whitehall. And then Whitehall got lit up by Portland in the final week there. So a little bit interesting. We're not really sure what to expect out of this Ludington team, and watching some film. The coach's kid is the quarterback. The coach was a quarterback at Ferris State back in the late 90s. He's in the middle of a lot of statistical leader boards, so he was an above-average quarterback, I would say, for who I would guess would be Coach Pierce with the Ferris State Bulldogs, and now he's trying to pass that on to his son, who is, I think, a junior still this year, but they scored almost 400 points. Let me see. They scored... Where are we? 395 points on the season. My processor's really working overtime right now as Optimus. The Cardinals scored almost 300. So, but something to note. That's not apples to apples. The Cardinals played a much tougher schedule. Ludington, historically, when I went through the history, has actually not really played that tough a schedule. So this year is one of their tougher, and it still wasn't as good as Big Rapids. The matchup favors the Cardinals, the way they play their defense. Jack Bowman, as well as Garrett Foster should have a field day on the ground. But they also play a really soft 3-3-5 defense. So you not only should be able to run the ball, but Cole Heiss should be able to pass in the short game at will. So that's Garrett Foster's specialty right there. You add in Wyatt Sciarra too. It should really be a good day. And then the Ludington defense, they're just going to give up points. They have all year. So that's your long and short for Friday night.
There you go. Yeah, so that's the little skinny there, Ludington, Big Rapids, and it's spooky season here, so the lights are going to be on and off. We did that on purpose, planning for this episode. So, but really for Reed City against Manistee is a team that you look on paper, they're obviously 5-4. They don't look necessarily as good. They put up a lot of points. Defensively, they've played well in some games. You do look at a lot of the teams that they've played competitively in the West Michigan Conference. They didn't play very well against Whitehall. They played decently well, you could say, just looking on film against Mason County Central here in Week 9. They had a very valiant performance. They got a couple guys banged up. A key running back right now is potentially out for this game. Their quarterback got banged up as well. Looked like a possible concussion, so he might have to go through protocol this week. Not saying the team on the other side doesn't have other things. Obviously, Owen Williams was kind of knocked out of the Beale City game. We're still waiting on his status as well, as we lost Jack Deitch earlier on in the middle of the week. But for Manistee, obviously, this is a team that historically, when you look at it, I mean, it's 21-20. Reed City is owning this all-time matchup. And it's really impressive to see these two teams. Obviously, this will be the 42nd meeting between these two teams, and that just goes to show no matter what the teams have been, there's obviously going to be a lot on the table with the postseason. But with the postseason, there comes an advantage, and we talked about this earlier on. Coach Schenkel at home in his career playoffs at the House of Pain, as he calls it. 9 wins, only 1 loss. That 1 loss came against Montague in 2021. And for Manistee on the road, they've had their struggles. They're 1-3 in their last, I believe, 4 years in the postseason, maybe even 5 years. So you're looking at a really hard road for them, looking to go on the road to beat Reed City at Alumni Field, where the fan base shows out every year. But Manistee, they like to do a couple different things. They really like to run what is really kind of formally known as the wing T. A lot of them call it the flex bone, even kind of a variation of the wishbone, where they kind of have a triangle set up with their. They each got a skill player on each side of the tight ends, and then you got a running back, so they kind of like to run the option off of that, a lot of bootleg rolls. They like to get out in space with their speed and utilize that, something very similar, obviously in a different formation, what we saw that Beale City did last week. So a little bit of a similarity. They like to throw a little bit more like true option, where you're getting the pitches out there, but it's going to be very interesting to see how our defense responds to that. Between the tackles, though, Reed City looks to have a big physical advantage, as they do against a lot of teams this year. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these two teams prepare for each other, how we see Ludington prepare for Big Rapids. And for both of us here, JT, it's a fortunate situation. Our teams are favored, and our teams are the ones that a lot of media are picking right now to do this again next week. Yeah,
some models have Big Rapids with over an 80% chance to win this game. But you know what that stuff means?
Nothing?
It means nothing. That's like win probability in watching a baseball game.
True.
Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, the Dodgers were going to win last night or 2 nights ago.
What's that guy's name? The fan that, tried to rip the ball out? What was that going on?
Well, they were going to win, until they didn't.
Yeah.
So that's their win probability. Anyway, I digress. So you never know. It's high school sports, too. These kids have to show up and play. It's the playoffs. Now, historically in the playoffs, Coach Gunso has not done that well with the Orioles. He's 1-6, his only win coming during the COVID year with a team that clearly shouldn't have been there in John Glenn, who was 1-6 themselves that year. So 1-6, not good in the playoffs. He scores a full 8 points less in the playoffs than during the regular season. He gives up 7 points more than he averages in the regular season. So it's not good for him, but he's going all out. Not that he wouldn't all the time.
Yeah, but what do you got to lose on your resume?
Well, he's going all out right now. He's 21 seasons in, and he's got a kid in the program. He's going balls to the wall right now. You
Sure.
just know it. So you can't take it for granted. The Cardinals, though, with Garrett Foster, have done a really good job of not overlooking opponents this year. They've just been sticking it to them right from the beginning, right from the get-go. That's what we need to see out of Garrett Foster and company tomorrow night.
Absolutely. And especially for Reed City, I think especially the discipline, they've taken care of the football. That's been a really good sign for them, especially using the short passing game on play action has been absolutely deadly. So I'm sure we'll have opportunities to see that happen here upcoming. So it's going to be a really fun, really Friday night of football. I mean, we got some other great games as well. Beale City hosting Frankfurt. They're from Mount Pleasant. That's going to be a really fun game. Those two teams, obviously, as we mentioned with a lot of these matchups on our earlier week episode, a lot of history behind a lot of these matchups as well. Central Malcolm going to be hosting Kent City this time. This will be a rematch from what the Hornets were able to do in I believe it was week 4, week 5, middle of the season. And then as well, you got Tri-County going to Frankenmuth. They're going to see a really good team over there. And so we'll see what they do, what Coach Butler can do with the squad that he has. And you got a lot of other good matchups as well over in Division 7. I mean, how about McBain playing against Harrison? That should be a fun game. McBain's probably going to be favored in that game hosting, especially but for Harrison. I mean, 7-win team. That's one of the best seasons they've had going into the playoffs over the last couple of years. So we'll see what they have in mind. And Everett as well going to North Muskegon. They're going to face a really good ball club over there too.
And that's who I was going to bring up, Everett. I think that would have been closer to a 50-50, the Harrison-McBain game, until the Wildcats took Harrison down in the final week. That kind of showed some weaknesses maybe for Harrison. So surprising. Anderson, Johnson, and the Everett Wildcats able to take down a ranked Harrison team. Now you don't know, right? That's high school football for you, so you just don't know. Now we get into the ultimate wild card, the playoffs.
The playoffs, exactly. And then we also have Holton Lake, who will have the privilege, as we say, to take a 310-mile road trip on a Saturday. We confirmed that, so they do have an extra day. Thank goodness. There was no way that game was going to happen on Friday. That's going to be a Saturday game. And so we'll see how the Bobcats do against the Maroons of Menominee. That's a really good football team. Reed City fans know that, and we've already alluded to that. But it's going to be a fun Friday night of football. You can catch myself, Mark Holcomb, not in cheeseburger mode. I'll be in game mode. They're on Y102. And so we'll have that game for you, JT and Coach Kostecki over on Big Country 100.9. And it's going to be fun for the fans this Friday night.
Yeah, it will. We know you're talking about how Coyotes, their fans always come out. We all know that. I think Big Rapids faithful are going to come out tomorrow night. But Ludington always travels well.
They do.
This stadium will probably be packed.
I expect Manistee will travel as well, too. Only 63 miles. Yeah, that's an hour drive. So Big Country 100.9, Y102. Catch us Big Rapids Media Network on Friday night, 6:30 p.m. pregame for both, 7 o'clock kickoff. And we'll have all your coverage for you all postseason long. It's going to be fun playoffs. I can't wait to bring it to you guys. I know JT agrees. And we can't wait to keep the rundown going. I mean, if we get to late November, I mean, are we going to go Old Settlers edition potentially towards Thanksgiving? I would like that.
I could see that. I could have my daughter whip up construction paper hats for us.
I think that would be cool.
That.
Yeah. So
we could do that.
We can hope our teams get there. So be sure to subscribe so you can follow us all postseason long and catch another edition of The Rundown presented by Michigan ADAS. Brandon Wirt, JT signing off. We'll see you later, everybody.